Dear students of Tabor, welcome to today's presentation, which comes from Unit 5 of the Listening and Speaking book. Behavioural Science is our title, and we will be focusing on the fourth of our skills here, which is a grammar skill, and it's about the past perfect. Our unit question is, what risks are good to take? So the sentences we study today will be connected to this topic. So please look at page 104 in your Listening and Speaking book. Before we delve into the information on that page, I'm just going to give you the agenda for this video today. Firstly, we'll look at the structure of the past perfect, and then we will explain when we use it with some keywords, and then after that we will practice before finally looking at the activities A and B in the book. So I hope now that you're on page 104 with me here on the grammar section, past perfect. So let's just have a look at the information here. Use the past perfect to show the relationship between two events or actions that happened in the past. Okay, so both of them happened in the past. The past perfect will be used to talk about the first event or action, and the second one will be with the simple past. Let's take a look at two examples to show this. Firstly, I had driven for 5 hours. Here's our first sentence. It's in the past perfect. So we can see that we need had, which if we have the present perfect, we will have what? Have or has. And then it's the same, we need verb 3. So driven is verb 3 for drive, drove, driven. Okay, so we need these two things. We need had, okay, and this will be the same for every pronoun. I, we, they, you, she, it, etc. We do not change this, unlike in the present perfect. So the first action is I had driven for 5 hours, and then the second with the simple past or the past simple, I went, which is the past simple of go. I went straight to bed without dinner. Our second example, the match had already started, so we can separate here the structure of the had with verb 3 with already. So we don't put it before and we don't put it afterwards. Then we have the simple past, which is our second event, we arrived late. So we have two sentences for those. Now, if we would like to put those two sentences into one sentence, then we need some keywords to do that. So if you read this with me, we can use the past perfect with past time clauses that begin with when, that's endama, before, by the time, and until. Let's have a look at these in action. We had been at work for hours when we called him. So you can see here that we have a full stop one time here at the end of the sentence. Paul had driven for an hour before he noticed he had a flat tire. They had already eaten dinner by the time I got home. And then finally, a negative form, I hadn't heard anything about it until I read the paper this morning. So you can see here that the first action is here, the first event, because we have the past perfect. But we can actually put this secondly if we start with these time markers here. Finally, the past perfect is often used with the adverbs already, yet, never ever, and just. So I would like to make things a little bit clearer by using a colourful example. So we can see here two pictures. The first one is at 7:30 in the morning, and the second one is at 8 o'clock. We have two characters. We have one boy here, and we have another one here who's in the bed. If you look at my time scale, here is now. So this is now. And then the past perfect action we can see is represented by this X, which is before the second action, which is the simple past. So we can make a sentence according to what information we have here. My brother had already gone, here he is, he had already gone to school when I woke up, because 7:30 is before 8 o'clock. So you can see how this works with these two pictures. Next, I would like you to try to make an example by using the information. So we have the example of Bob and Carla went to the same restaurant. Okay, it's past simple. But they didn't see each other there. Bob left the place at 8 o'clock and Carla arrived at 8:30. Okay, so according to this information here, we can make a past perfect sentence as follows. When Carla arrived at the restaurant, Bob had already left. So this is one sentence which represents the information here. If we wish, we could say Bob had already left the restaurant when Carla arrived. So if we wish to put when in the middle, we would just change the position of the past perfect part. So now please look at this information and try to form a past perfect sentence. So one part would be in the past perfect, and the second will be past simple using one of those time markers. So just read that and see if you can form a good sentence. So a good sentence here would be, Helen hadn't cleaned the house when her mother came back from the supermarket. Now look at these two, read the information and try and form two good sentences with the past perfect for the information here. So for the first one, we can say, when Carla woke up, Victor had already left for work. And then number 3, let me read this one. Mary has 3 kids, 3 children. They went to bed at 10:30. Mary watched TV until 11 o'clock. So we can see that 10:30 is before 11. So we can say here, the kids had gone to bed before Mary stopped watching TV. Then finally, 4 and 5, Julia learned English in 2009, and a year later she went to the USA. Can you think of one sentence with the past perfect for this situation? Well, a good example here would be Julia had learned English before she went to the USA. Then finally, number 5, Lisa went to Paris on Thursday. She phoned her parents on Tuesday. Which one happened first? She phoned her parents on Tuesday, right? So therefore we can say Lisa had called, meaning phoned, her parents before she went to Paris. So I hope these examples have helped you with a good understanding of the past perfect. Turn to the book and page 104, and we need to first of all look at activity A. Let's look at the instruction. Read the pairs of sentences. So we have 2 sentences. Write 1 next to the sentence that happened first, then write a 2 next to the sentence that happened second. Then we need to write 1 sentence. Okay, so we need to use the time clause here. Number 1 is before, between, in the parenthesis. Okay, so let's do number 1 together. The scientist retired. So we already know that this happened first, and then he began research on a new area of interest. Okay, so we have our 2 sentences, and we know this one will be what with the past perfect, because it's action number 1. So we can see that here. The scientist had retired before he began research on a new area of interest. Okay, number 2, I didn't hear about Brunonia Barry, I read the article. So from these 2, which one do you think happened first? Okay, so I didn't hear about Brunonia Barry was first, so this must be second. So our job now is to use until with these 2 sentences to merge them into one. So what do you think? Okay, so the correct answer is I hadn't heard about Brunonia Barry until I read the article. Moving over to page 105, we have the rest of the sentences for part A. Number 3, it started to rain. We finished hiking. So from these 2, which was first and which was second? You should have said 2, then 1. We need to use before to put these 2 together. And the best way of doing that is here. We had finished hiking before it started to rain. Number 4, we have how as in picked up the phone and it stopped ringing. Which order is this one? Which one was first? Yep, it stopped ringing, and then second, how as in picked up the phone. In this example, we have by the time, and it's probably better to use this one from the beginning. So if we start with by the time, how would the rest of the sentence conclude? Can you say that for me? By the time how as in picked up the phone, it had stopped ringing. So although we have it had stopped ringing here second, it was the first action. Number 5, my sister told me, and I didn't realize my sweater was on backwards. The wrong way, that means. Which one was first? Yeah, and then secondly, my sister told me. In this example, we need to use until to put these two together. So what do you think? What opinion do you have for this one? So here we need to say, I hadn't realized my sweater was on backwards until my sister told me. Number 6, Nawaf left his house and his mother called. Which one happened first and which one happened second? Quickly shout it out. First is Nawaf left his house, and second is his mother called. So here we have when. Please construct this. So put these two into one with when. How would we say that? Okay, so we should have Nawaf had left his house when his mother called. Or of course you could say, when Nawaf had left his house, his mother called. 7, I drank the cup of coffee and I realized it wasn't mine. For this one, the first action is I drank the cup of coffee, followed by I realized it wasn't mine. So have a go, put those two together with before. You done it? If you've done it, you should have said, I had drunk the cup of coffee before I realized it wasn't mine. And then the last one, number 8 of part A, we arrived at the airport, our plane departed. So the first action will be our plane left, meaning departed, and then we arrived. So by the time is the time marker here. Can you put this one together? Which one are you going to put into the past perfect? Arrived or departed? Well, that's how it should look. By the time we arrived at the airport, our plane had departed. And then let's move on to part B. So here you need to complete the sentences with information that is correct for you. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples, but I would like you to form your own sentences later. So number 1, every one of these actually begins with the pronoun I. So I, number 1, when I got home yesterday. Well, as an example, you could say I had eaten an apple when I got home yesterday. Number 2, I, space, until I started taking this class. My example, I hadn't understood English until I started taking this class. Number 3, I, by the time I graduated from high school. So I've put, I had studied English a lot by the time I graduated from high school. Number 4, I, space, by the year 2000. I had driven a car by the year 2000. And finally, number 5, we have to put 2 parts here, using before as the time marker. I've put, I had consumed the meal before I drank the juice. Okay, so these are 5 examples. So fill that information in from your perspective. So that's it. That covers the past perfect, and I hope you have understood what we mean by this grammatical term. If you're still having some problems, then as it says here in part C, go online, Oxford Online, for more practice and get more familiar with the structure and the usage.